everyone, Nishka here from EurekaCrystalBeads.com with another fun beading tutorial. Before I get started, make sure to like and subscribe so that we can keep bringing you more great content. Today is New Year's Eve, yay! Let's kick 2020 to the curb and celebrate with a little champagne. Aren't these cute? We are going to be making these adorable beaded champagne glass earrings. So I'm going to show you exactly step by step how to make these and how to design them and everything you need to make a pair for yourself. These will be perfect whether you're celebrating in a pod with your loved ones or on Zoom or sitting home alone watching Netflix. Either way, these are going to be a hit. And they are really easy to make. Learning these techniques would also help you make and design lots of other fun things. So it's a great project for people who are new to bead weaving. We're going to be using cylindrical beads that are really perfect for this kind of project. I also have a really fun bonus additional project which you will only see at the end of this video. So make sure you watch all the way through and don't miss that little bit at the end. So let's get started. So for this project, you are going to need cylindrical shaped seed beads in size 11. So I'm using Miyuki Delicas, but you can substitute Toho treasure beads or Icos. If you're a bead nerd like me, you can read more about the differences between Delica's treasures and Icos on our blog. But for this, we'll be using brick stitch, which, as the name suggests, means that the beads fit into each other the way bricks would in a brick wall. So that's why you need cylindrical seed beads, because they have this square profile, so they snap together nicely like tiny little bricks. In theory, you could use round seed beads for this, but you'd see a lot more gaps in between all of the beads, and your design wouldn't be as tight, no matter how tightly you stitch them. So we have a silver color to be the sort of reflective outside of the glass. We have this white lined, if you can see here, it's a white lined crystal bead, and this will be our glass. So this part here and a little bit through here. The champagne itself is this pretty little pale yellow color with a very slight AB coating to give it a little sparkle. We're also going to be doing the bubbles that you can see sort of throughout this design in a gold. And finally, just to give it a little bit more dimension, I decided to go with some additional color, the silver lined topaz, for the shadow. You don't have to do that part, but I thought it gave it a little bit of dimension. So if you only have a few colors on hand, just pick the ones that you like best. Also, if you want to do the bonus project, which I will show you a little bit later, you can grab another color in sort of a green, and I picked these, but I'll show you that after the main project. Aside from the beads, you will also need a pair of ear wires. This project is fun because you can do either silver or gold. I'm choosing silver because the edge is silver and I wanted the ear wire to match. You're also going to need 6-pound fire line. I'm going to be using the smoke color, but I think crystal would be better for this particular project because the colors are so light. It's just easier for you to see what I'm doing with the darker colors. So that's what I'll be using. And as you can see, it's not awful. I did this one with smoke also, but I think the colors will be a little bit brighter and pop a little bit more if you use the crystal color. which is also available on eurekacrystalbeads.com. You will need a pair of chain nose pliers, and that's just to open and close your jump ring when you're putting it on the finished product. I like to have a pair so I can grab one side and open with the other. You can probably get away with using just one. You're also going to need a size 12 beading needle and your thread snips, which you will need to cut your fire line. You do not want to use regular scissors for that because it will dull the heck out of your scissors, and dull scissors are never fun. Okay, so now that we have everything we need, let's get started. Okay, so I've strung up a wingspan and a half of fire line on my needle, and what I'm going to do is pick up 2 silver Delicas. I'm going to take them to the end of the line. I like to leave a little bit of a tail. It doesn't have to be super long, but I always like longer tail rather than short. And then I'm going to pass my needle through that first bead a second time. And then we have this. So the beads sit very nicely next to each other with almost no prompting. They go side by side. So when we start, we're going to build up this design from this edge. And we're going to start by creating a whole row of Delicas using ladder stitch. So I've already started with the first 2 that you saw. I'm going to add another silver one and continue adding beads. In this design, there are 3 white beads after the 3 silver beads, and then another 4 silver beads to kind of create a rim effect. After that, we will start our brick stitch to build up the rest of it. But the beginning part is a ladder stitch across this way. So let me show you the rest of that. So here we are with our first 2 beads. I am going to go through the next bead, and now I'm ready to add my next silver bead. And go like so. Don't get caught in your thread there. And with very little prompting, it comes to sit right next to its friends. You can pull tight at this moment, but it's okay if it's not crazy tight because we are going to tighten it up by going back through that newly added bead. And now we're ready for the next bead. Give it a little tug and onto the next bead. So let me finish the first row and I will come back and show you what to do after that. Okay, so here is our base, 10 beads across, and this is where we will continue to build the rest of our project. So we're coming out of this last bead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 2 beads, 1 silver for the edge of the glass, and 1 of these pretty little white ones, and I'm going to go not through a bead, but between beads. So the stitch running between these 2 beads, I'm going to go under that. And the beads will just naturally, if you need to help them, you can always move it aside, but they will very frequently just jump right where they want to be. And now you have kind of expanded the second row by not a full bead, but kind of like a half bead, sort of in a, brick pattern. The next pass is going to be back through this white bead. And that's going to secure everything down. Oh, my tail. And you might have to sort of pull a little bit here and jostle those beads where you want them into place. And tighten it up a little bit. You see, it's already starting to look fairly brickish. Now you'll be taking one bead at a time, going under the stitch of thread between the next two beads and back through the bead you just added. So let me show you one more. We're still going with the top of the glass, so we've got the white bead. Pick it up, find the next stitch of thread. Here, maybe it's easier like this, if you can see. Find the next stitch of thread. Pull all the way and back up that bead you just added. Give everything a little pull. And there you go. The little bricks are starting to form. So I'm going to continue adding the beads. It's going to be white beads all the way till the end where we will finish off with the silver beads. So I'm going to add them and I'll come back and show you exactly what I did and what it looks like and how we will continue. Okay, so here we are. I've gone almost all the way. Now we want to have one extra bead in the second row, and that will be a silver bead. So this next bead that I'm going to put on is going to be another white bead, and then we're going to put on another silver bead, but as you can see there's no stitch to go under. So I'll show you how to do that when you are sticking out a little bit as opposed to diminishing in size. So let me just get that last one on. So the first row was 10 beads. The second row is going to be 11 beads. So this is bead number 10 that I'm adding. I just like to hold it tight and give it a little tug to make it nice and tight. You see the difference? And here, we're not going to be going under a stitch because there's no stitch to go under. We're just going to do similar to what we did at the beginning, which is kind of ladder stitch it on. So I'm going to go back under this last white bead after I picked up my silver. See, it's a little tight now to get back in there. Just get that tail out of there. There we go. Now, you see it's kind of floppy like this, so what I like to do is go back into that bead I just added and go to the row underneath. This will help tighten it up a little bit. You see how much tighter it is and no more flopping. Now we just got to get our thread back up here. So to get the thread back to where we want to be, which is coming out of here, I will jump over to the next bead, head through the third bead in the row I want to be in. And this is a nice also sort of reinforcing. Head back into this one. And as you go along, you want to tighten and tighten. And now you can go through the one you want to be coming out of. And there you have it. So we have completed the very top of our champagne glass. So we are here. Now, the next row is going to decrease again, and that's what's going to keep a sort of a straight profile. We're not increasing or decreasing. We're staying straight via a slight zigzagging. Since it's brick stitch, there's always going to be a slight shift with each row. So in order to stay straight, you have to increase and decrease by one as you go along. So next bead of the next row is going to be a silver bead, like our edges. So do you remember last time we took 2 beads in order to stick out a little bit? This time I'm only going to take 1 bead. Go under that stitch. And back up through that bead if it lets me in there. Okay, very good. And now we'll continue along just like we have. The last bead will be a silver bead, and it will be at the same level as this one in our first row. So I'm going to go and work on that, and I will meet you guys back after I've done a couple rows. Okay, so I have completed 5 rows, and 5 rows is how much glass we get before we get to the champagne. So let me see here. We have our glass. So now is the fun part. We can start adding the next colors. So like I did here, you can have some fun just randomly distributing bubbles with the gold beads wherever you see fit. Most of it will be this color for the champagne. And then along one edge, I will be adding a bead or 2 of this color just to give it a little dimension. So here we are coming out of this bead here. So our next is an increase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab still silver on the edge because the glass continues all the way down. And then we're going to get a champagne color. So 2 beads like we have been doing. Under that stitch. And just pop that down. And there we go. First bit of champagne to enjoy. Go back up. And we're just going to continue this. So to recap, we had 5 rows of the glass, and then we will have 17 rows of champagne. And then we will start to decrease the glass on the bottom and create the stem. So let's keep going for 17 more rows. So we've done our first row of champagne. Isn't that pretty? And now I've just started the next row. I've decided that I'm going to do the shadowing on the side of the design that has the 3 silver beads at the top. See, the other side has 4. So that's what's going to help me remember where I'm at. So now, from now on, for the next 16 rows, this one included, I will pick up this silver lined topaz color as the first bead after the silver color before continuing with this champagne color and the occasional gold for bubbles. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to add that little shading. And then when we get to the bottom, we'll add even more shading because it'll be like the bottom of the glass, and there's always a little bit more depth of color in the bottom of a champagne glass. Okay, and now continue with this pale yellow. And there we have it. So we're just gonna keep going back and forth. 16 more rows to go till we can start changing the shape of our little design here. By the way, you can see how I decided to throw in some of the gold beads to create a little bubbles, which I think is kind of fun and adds to the sparkliness of the finished product. And I didn't have any specific pattern in mind. I just tried to disperse them a little bit and, you know, give it a feeling of little champagne bubbles. But if you do feel like you want to make both earrings identical when it comes to these bubble patterns, you can use some brick stitch graph paper to help you decide where they'll go, and then you can do them exactly the same. For the next row, like I said, we're going to start decreasing to create the bottom of the glass. Again, we're going to take another silver and we're just going to go in one more. So before we were adding one and then adding two with each row to go in and out to create this more or less straight edge. Now we're just going to be adding one. So we're going to be decreasing it slightly at every turn. So I'm going to continue, and once we get to, let's see, once we get to 3, we'll do 2, and then 3 again, and that'll be our stem. So I'm going to head that way. We are going to start doing all silver and throwing in a little bit of that white of the glass when we're down to 5 beads across. Okay, here we are. We've made it to 2 beads. And so now, in order to stay straight, we'll have to increase and decrease by 1 bead for a few rows. I will start with a silver and keep a white one in the middle. So we'll take 2 and get that little stitch right in the middle, exactly the same way as we were doing before. Just pop right in there, come back up, and you're gonna help that one. Give it a little tug. And now we're going to add a silver bead. Just like we did for the whole body of the glass. Okay, we made it. Time to finish off the stem. So again, we are going to have to increase here, but we are going to need even more of an increase than just by 1. So we're going to have to add on the same way that we have done before with a little ladder stitch to get it as wide as we want it. Now I'm going to go out the side, and we're going to stitch on a few more silver beads. This row is going to have 6. So we want 1 more sticking out over the edge there. So we are at the edge here. Again, we want to increase it a little bit more because this is a little bit too small for my taste, and I think it would look better with a slightly wider base. So we are going to add 2 more beads to the next row. And you guys, we are so close to done, and it's going to be so cute. I mean, look at it. It's already super cute. You can really have fun with this. Doesn't have to be earrings. You can do charms. You can do really whatever your heart desires. Once you know the basics, you can make any design you want. A perfect match with our other companion friend. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to weave some thread in through here and really try to strengthen this portion. As you can see, this part is really nice and strong, but this part's a bit floppy because it's so thin. So I'm going to try and strengthen this with a little bit of back and forth. So I'm going to weave my thread in a little bit here. And then when I've decided I've had enough of that, I will head on to the top with my thread, and we're going to do a very simple beaded loop, and we're going to add our ear wire. Okay, so to finish it off, I am going to make sure I am coming out of this very top bead right here. And I'm going to pick up 5 silver delicas. And I'm just going to make a simple beaded loop. The delicas will go all the way down and back through that same bead again. And I'm going to go through it a few more times because this will be the point that needs the most reinforcement, because it's going to hang directly from here. Okay, once you feel that you've reinforced it enough that it will be sturdy because it's going to hang from your ear by this loop, take the thread and weave it back into your project. Make sure that you do a few knots along the way, and then you can snip it off. So I'm going to start my weaving in, and I will be back to show you how to complete your project by adding the final piece that will make it an earring, which is the ear wire. So I will be back. Okay, here's our ear wire, and this is where our pliers come in. You always want to open everything just to the side. And let's make sure we're putting it on right. This one, we want them to be mirror opposites. So this one goes like this, so this one will go just like that. And just give it a little squish to make sure there's no opening. So there you have it. Beautiful pair of earrings to cheers the night away on your New Year's Eve. And I also wanted to show you the little bonus project that I hinted at a little bit earlier, which is this adorable bottle to go with your champagne glasses. And the best part about this is everything that we just did, you can do and make this. It's just the opposite. It's exactly the same size. The only difference is the colors and slight little pattern, obviously variation to make the label. And then the bottom, it's actually a little bit easier. You don't have to make this stem. You can just make a little cork. So this is a little bonus. And if you want to get really funky, you can make a pair of earrings that's just the glass and the bottle, or you can just have fun and make this a necklace. Whatever you like to do, this is a perfect set that will make your New Year's sparkle bright So thanks so much for joining us, and make sure that if you have any questions, any comments, if you want to wish us a happy new year, go ahead and leave that below in the comments, and absolutely enjoy this project. Make sure that you subscribe to Eureka Crystal Beads and check us out online at eurekacrystalbeads.com. And happy new year, everyone. Bye.